Currently, we barely have any time for ourselves. Even any time to go outside. Can't go walking in a park, or maybe even going to the gym. Maybe you can't even afford to go to the gym. So you inevitably gain a lot of weight, which can be unhealthy. Luckily, there's a better way to be able to stay fit and healthy without having to do all of that. Hi, I am Raven Borja, and for today, I'll be your personal trainer. This video, we are going to go over different calisthenic and aerobic exercises that'll help you both lose weight and gain muscle, as well as give you different tips on dieting to make sure that you get the most out of what you eat. So, to start off the video, let's focus on your diet first. As they say, food is the body's fuel source. So before you go exercising for your health, you need to know what you eat first. To start with, in reality, it doesn't really matter much what you eat exactly. It just matters what's inside the food. For example, as fitness vlogger Jack Spade explained, you could eat pizzas and burgers all you want, but specifically eating from Domino's or Pizza Hut or McDonald's, which specifically makes the food as fatty as possible, as well as filling it with different preservatives which will mess up your digestive, urinary, and circulatory organs. So, trying to find much healthier options would be much preferable. Maybe using leaner beef and using less salt in a burger, or maybe trying to use whole wheat bread instead of pizza dough for a much better pizza. Next up, the most important thing in your diet is monitoring your macronutrients. Specifically, your proteins, fats, carbs, and most importantly, your calories, and making sure you make the most out of it. For starters, focusing less on carbs and increasing your protein could help you build your body for working out. Most importantly, try keeping track of it using some sort of a calorie app, which there is many in the Google Play Store and in the App Store, which will help you keep track of your daily allowance, to say the least. Lastly, a little trick to make sure that your metabolism is able to burn the necessary amounts of calories and not start to burn less as a survival mechanism is something called carb cycling, which, according to WebMD, is a diet plan where you alternate between high carb or high calorie days, specifically in days where you'll be doing intense exercises such as cardios or high intensity ones, or high intensity lifting, and low carb days, or sometimes even no carb days. Some people call this having a cheat day. Now, after the actual workouts, these will be split into two exercises: the aerobic exercises, which will be focused on cardios and sweating, and the calisthenic exercises, which will be focused on building muscle and whatnot. But before that, we need to warm up. So, first off, we're going to stretch. But what is stretching for? Well, the benefits of stretching are that it increases your performance for physical activities, it helps your joints move far more than their full range of motion, aka flexibility. It helps increase blood flow to the muscles, and most importantly, it helps decrease the risk of injuries or cramps or strains whenever you're working out. Now, for this one, you're going to need an Arnie stick, or alternatively, you can use a selfie stick or any sort of long object. However, we are going to show you variations that don't require such things. Now, let's start with the calisthenic exercises. For the first one, we'll be doing basic push ups. I'm pretty sure everyone knows how to do this. I'd recommend that you do 10 reps for around 3 to 5 sets, which it means around 10 times 3 or 10 times 5 times. Now, if you can't do this variation immediately, you can do slow progression, like in knees or in the wall, as long as you're going to be able to do 10 reps and 3 sets. Next up on this list is crunches, which is basically similar to sit-ups, but not fully dedicating to it. I'm going to have you do 15 to 20 reps and around 3 to 5 sets each for this one. Now, if you're perfectly capable of doing it, do a sit-up, but if you're not, I'd suggest only doing crunches. Next up, we are going to do single leg crunches with arm raises, which involves your upper body twisting from a different angle as your lower body. So if you're going right with the right hand, you're going to raise your left foot. You're going to do this for 10 to 15 reps and around 2 to 3 sets. If you're not able to do this, I'd suggest to just do bicycle crunches. Next up is hanging squats. Now, what is the difference between hanging squats and a normal squat? Well, as you can see, you hang your squats, which means that you prolong the time in which you are squatted before you stand up, which will be counted using the positioning of your arm, which usually takes around 3 seconds. Now, the conversion from with stick to without stick is much easier here because it only requires clasping your hands instead of grasping a stick. Now, these hanging squats will take around 10 to 20 reps and around 2 sets each. You can increase it as much as you want. Next up, simple arm circles. These ones will help you develop your shoulders and your back, although not evidently doing it, unlike the sit-ups or the push-ups. Now, I'm going to have you do 20 reps, both sides, both forwards rotations and backwards rotations, and around 3 to 4 sets each for this one. Now we're going to do lunge twists, which involves lunging, or if no one doesn't get the description of it, squatting down on only one leg and then twisting your body parallel to the leg that is lowered. Now, for this one, you're going to have to do 10 reps of around 3 to 4 sets. And by 10 reps, I mean doing both sides for the left leg and the right leg. Now, if you don't have a stick, I'm going to have to suggest you just clasping your hands like the hanging squats. For this one, you're actually going to need the stick. So, instead, we're going to have to give an alternative workout for the no stick variation. For this one, we're gonna have to do stick catch, which involves throwing a stick and then catching it by the middle. This is going to help develop your biceps. You're going to have to do 10 reps and around 2 to 4 sets for this one. Now, for the alternative exercise, we're going to do resistance curls, in which you clasp both your hands, and with the opposite hand that you're going to be training, you're going to push down at around 60 to 70% of your power and then lift up with your 100%. At the same time, you're going to have to do 10 reps, 2 to 4 sets for this. Now, for our last aero calisthenic exercise, the side reach. You're going to have to put the stick in between your shoulders, and you're going to have to reach from toe to toe. Now, if you don't have a stick, it's advisable to just do cross side reaches, which is going from right to left, or left hand to right toe. Now, you're going to have to do this for 15 reps, both sides, for around 2 sets. Okay, now we're going to do aerobics. For this one, you're going to have to start to do wrist warm-ups first though, if you're going to use a stick, which involves rotating a stick around your wrist repeatedly. Do this for around, let's say, 8 seconds. For our first aerobic exercise, we're going to do skips. Just imagine that you're doing jump rope or something, and then start skipping. Now, if you're perfectly capable, I'd suggest that you do jumping jacks. And if you're capable, as in you have a jump rope at home,
it'd be much advisable to just use the rope in order to be, let's say, more accurate for this one. For this one, you're going to do this for about 2 to 3 minutes. Increase it for as long as you like. Okay, for this one, we're going to do jog skips, which is just jogging in place. Now, for this one, you can also do this with a jump rope. I'd suggest that you do this for around 1 to 2 minutes. Of course, increasing it over time if you're perfectly capable of it, though.
Next up is knee jogs, more colloquially known to basketball communities as the high knees, which involves taking your knee to up around your chest level and jogging. Now, for this one, it's very easy to transition from stick to stickless. For the stick one, it just means taking the stick up to your knees, but with stickless one, it involves touching your knees. Now, I'm going to have to suggest you to do this for around 1 to 2 minutes.
Next up, we're going to do side stabs, which involves moving to the side at a certain pattern 1, 2, 3, 4. And then at the fourth mark, stabbing to the side, maybe your left or your right. Alternatively, you can do side punches, which involves punching to the side like a boxer. This move is currently inspired by Tai Bo. Now for this one, if you're familiar with arnis, you're going to do Sinawali slashes, which involves going from your shoulder, your dominant shoulder, slashing down, and then going from your opposite shoulder and slashing down. For this one, if you're not going to do it with a stick, you're going to have to do it open palm. Something similar to the karate chop, if you can. And if you're perfectly capable, you can even add in footwork into this, where you skip around, moving position constantly. I'm going to have to suggest you to do this for around 1 to 3 minutes, increasing over time.
Next up, we're going to do front stabs, which involves, well, stabbing. It's going from one position where your hand is behind your back and then thrusting forwards with great force. Now, I'd suggest you do this both with your left and with your right. And like the Sinawali slashes, you can also up the difficulty by adding in footwork. Now, if you don't have a stick at home, I'd suggest that you do punches instead, which is more karate style, I'd say.
By the way, don't forget to drink water while you're at it.
Next up, we're going to have to do burpees. I'm going to have to suggest to you to do this for around 1 to 2 minutes because this is a very accelerating exercise. Now, you can either do beginner exercises for these burpees where you only do it slowly, one leg at a time. You can do an intermediate one in which you jump in order to get to the plank position. And finally, you can do advanced in which you jump after standing up. Now, it depends on your mileage in if you're going to do one or the other, but I'd suggest that you do it slowly. Lastly, we're going to do rowboats, which is, as the name suggests, feels like rowing a boat. Now, you can do this with a stick, and you can, of course, do this stickless by simply clasping your hands. Now, for this exercise, you're going to have to do this for around 1 to 3 minutes, or up until you can do it. Okay, now that we're finished working out, it's very much suggested that you start to cool down first. Now, for cooling down, it requires sitting stretches instead of standing stretches, which will help ease our muscles slowly. Now, unlike stretching while standing up, you're going to have to do all of these very slowly, almost like yoga or some sort. Now, stay fit, stay healthy, and of course, stay dedicated. This is Raven John Borja, and thank you for listening to me.